James O'Keefe from Project Veritas joins us by phone because I wanted to get his thoughts on all of this. James, is always good to speak with you. Great work. Again, I don't think that can be said enough to you. But I you're not doxing people. That's not what
No.
this is. And that's just one account, I realize, but that's not what you're doing. But yet, have you, tell me, for the people who haven't been following this, just give them the quick 30-second backstory, because Project Veritas, you've had accounts shut down. You've even had your verification check mark taken away because they're unhappy. Twitter and other media outlets are unhappy with your reporting.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, Dana, thank you for having me on. And we really appreciate you giving us the opportunity to talk about this. This Twitter thing, it's remarkable because we confronted the vice president of Facebook outside of his house in California, but CNN confronted, remember Drew Griffin,
Yep.
a couple years ago, confronted that woman. She's a private citizen, and charged her with being a Russian troll. And CNN didn't blur the number on her house, and that tweet, Dana, remains up on Twitter. That remains up there. And Twitter suspended our account for doxing people's privacy.
Yeah,
I mean,
and I want
this is
to
the
let
vice
people know
president of
too,
Facebook.
the woman you're speaking about, this was an elderly woman who ran like a pro-Trump Facebook group of other similarly aged individuals, and CNN rolls up to this lady's house, replete with a satellite truck and everything else, and they're just with the cameras showing everybody everything about her house, including, as James just said, her street address. Now, that would be doxing. But what you said, James, what Project Veritas does, that's not even in any way comparable.
Well, I mean, I think the public's, this is the biggest, maybe the most important public, issue in the history of the American Republic. The tech companies, and they're targeting people, and they're more powerful than the United States government. And this is the vice president of Facebook, a guy named Guy Rosen, who was on a leaked whistleblower tape talking about freezing comments on Facebook for speech that they deemed, this is the comments under a thread, on anything that could indirectly be considered hate speech. So we thought the public had a right to know this information, and we spoke with this individual on a public street, a public sidewalk. And Twitter said to me, "We need you to delete this tweet." And against my own conscience, I said, I don't think that's a good idea. I don't think I violated anyone's privacy rights. CNN does this. TV News, Fox 5 in New York does this all the time, Dana. I mean, local news television reporters, this is what they do. They sort of run around on streets with microphones, flag mics. We're not talking about hidden cameras here. So
Right.
this is a Rubicon now, Dana, that Twitter is crossing that they've never previously crossed. But what makes it even more crazy, as you alluded to as I came on, is Brian Stelter and Anna Cabrera go on CNN. This is last Sunday, and they don't report that I've been suspended for doxing and privacy, which is what the CNN reporter online said. No, they said that I've been suspended for, quote, misinformation. So only one of these two reporters can be correct, either Fung, the online business reporter, or Cabrera. They cannot both be correct. So our lawyers have fired a letter to CNN. And I'm proud to announce to you that we're going to start suing the hell out of these people. I've already sued the New York Times for defamation. We're going to get past motion to dismiss. So we're going to go ahead and sue CNN unless they retract or correct one of those statements. We weren't suspended for misinformation, Dana. We were suspended for, according to Twitter and according to Brian Fung of CNN, doxing people's privacy. So they're not the same.
I love that you're holding them to account. We're speaking with James O'Keefe of Project Veritas, because regular everyday people are held to a higher standard. If they even share so much as a meme, it's considered misinformation, which is a word that in this era has been redefined to be whatever those in power want it to be and mean. And now to have these individuals have to go by their same sets of rules. And I think that's important too, because what you're doing this is so Orwellian. We were talking about this earlier. This is so Orwellian. The idea that misinformation now is being applied to just simple things that are uncomfortable or challenge the falsehoods that are being peddled by media outlets. And for people who have followed you for a long time, and the breakup of Acorn, which is ultimately that's the story that launched you into the industry of citizen journalism. Talk a little bit about how legacy media was really caught off guard, like maybe 10, 15 years ago, the advent really of microblogging and social media platforms and being able to live stream, because then they couldn't control it anymore. But I feel as though they've tried everything that they can to figure out ways to offset that loss of power to the citizen. And that's really what this comes down to, doesn't it?
Yeah, well said, Dana. I mean, I think the Acorn story that we did with Andrew Breitbart and you 11 years ago was a kind of tipping point. And the Overton window, that's the range of issues that we're allowed to discuss, has shifted so much because citizens have been allowed, and that's led to the rise of Donald Trump. They were allowed to speak directly to the audience. We didn't have to go through, Peter Jennings or Walter Cronkite. We could go right to the people. This is both a blessing and a curse. It's a curse for the tech companies because they don't have the ability to censor information. And a lot of the people throughout the 20th century, a lot of the deans of journalism schools felt that people are too stupid to get raw information. They were called a bewildered herd that information needs to be filtered, that people are not able to handle facts, Dana. This is what a lot of people said in the mid 20th century in journalism schools. But then along came these tech companies, and it allowed groups like Veritas to break stories on video, that streaming visuals of those Acorn workers in 2009 counseling undercover agents how to disguise underage hookers, and on the tax forms, Andrew Breitbart called it the Abu Ghraib of the Great Society. It unmasked who these bureaucrats and government agents were. And now the only solution for the tech companies is to do what George Orwell described as doublethink. What does that mean? Doublethink. Well, Orwell said in 1984 that these companies now have to tell deliberate lies while genuinely believing them. To believe that black is white in 1 minute and then that black is black in the next minute. To believe that 2 + 2 = 5. The only way, and you just saw it with what CNN did to us. They banned our account. And they had two separate reporters saying two separate things. They have to deny the existence of objective reality while at the same time exercising what Orwell describes as doublethink to deny that one is even using doublethink. And I've never seen it before in my life. I've been doing this for 12 years. I've never seen people actually argue that 2 + 2 = 5. But the only way for these tech companies to get away with what they're doing is to sort of say, oh no, it's perfectly fine for CNN to confront a private citizen at her house and not blur the number, but it's doxing for James O'Keefe to speak with the vice president of Facebook on a public street. It doesn't make any sense. So these tech companies have to convince themselves, but through cognitive dissonance, they have to convince themselves of doublethink, and it's scary. And I don't know. I think the only solution is to sue. I would curse on your air, but I'm going to say sue the hell out of them, which is what we're going to do. And we're going to depose them under oath after a motion to dismiss. And when we're going to put them under oath, Dana, these folks are going to have to be honest because they're going to perjure themselves if they don't tell the truth.
Like I said, I love that you're doing this. We're speaking with James O'Keefe. And because this is something that needs to happen regularly. And a lot of people are honestly too afraid and not even sure how to approach something like this. I'm so glad you're doing it. We're going to watch that case. And of course, we're here when you need to give us updates about it, give us the latest development. But congratulations, by the way, too, before I let you go, because you got a conviction. Well, you had Vincent Marzello, who pled guilty to wrongful voting in the 2016 election. For those who were unaware, one of the things that Project Veritas has been doing is fighting also to uphold election integrity and to discuss election fraud. And one of the individuals that you all had reported on actually entered a guilty plea because the evidence was overwhelming. So congrats on that, because it has major impact what you do. So we're grateful for it.
Thank you, Dana. Thank you, Dana. And that's all because of video and whistleblowers. Veritas tips at protonmail.com. If you want to be an insider, be brave and do something about the problems in our society.
There you go. James O'Keefe, ProjectVeritas.com. James, as always, thank you. Godspeed, my friend.
Thank you.